Hey guys, Potates here. This video is highlighting a way you can build your character in Middle-earth Shadow of War. That build is the Balrog build. A build that uses 4 set items from the Warmonger tribe and 2 from the Machine tribe to unleash fiery destruction wherever you go. The dark fire will avail you as you burn your enemies alive, healing yourself and setting off massive explosions. If you haven't seen my video on the full skill tree, check that out now, the link is below. So with the Balrog build, you'll be setting yourself alight by setting others alight. Don't worry, you deal massive damage when you and others are on fire, exploding and regenerating health. Most of your attacks spread the fire, causing enemies to run around in pure fear. You are death, you are fire, and you have fun as hell. So let's first talk about the pros and cons of this build, and then the set items you will need, and finally, the skills you should pick up. Okay, so let's talk about the pros of this build. Firstly, this build has one of the highest damage outputs in the game. This is a combination of damage over time and burst, so it's extremely deadly. Burst comes in the form of crits, sappers and explosions, and damage over time comes in the form of fire burning. This build has fantastic survivability if not facing a lone target, as killing grunts on fire nets you a lot of health. Even though you want to be up close and in their face, this build has a lot of ranged options, which kind of negates that weakness. Good positioning helps this build more than most, as fire can spread and you will be the catalyst. Spreading to a wooden structure, for example, sets all those orcs on fire, and it could wipe them out without you having to do really anything. Finally, this build gives you a goal. It lets you know what type of orcs you need to farm and how to achieve your ends. This build functions very well late game, as gear can be upgraded to max level. Now let's talk about the negatives of this build. Firstly, like all builds focused around a set, it's extremely reliant on finding gear and having set bonuses. If you set yourself alight without the bonuses, you'll get no value. And without the gear, you won't be as strong as a build that doesn't require items to get going. Since this build relies almost exclusively on fire damage, your damage output will significantly take a hit when you come against enemies who are immune to it, and will also be in a bad spot if they are enraged by it. Next, it's very reliant on grunts for health, and if you find yourself solo with a particularly strong orc, being on fire could get you killed. It goes without saying, don't light yourself on fire without having 4 pieces of the set. Finally, this build has a lot of friendly fire. You're chaotic good, so make sure those followers are far away from you. So for this build, you need exactly 2 set items from the Machine tribe and 4 from the Warmonger. They need to be different and equipped, so having 1 sword from Machine and getting a sword from Warmonger won't work. The hardest thing will be getting all 6. In terms of which you should use in which slot, that's up to you and what you find. Some will be better than others, but as you are leveling, you can't really control what drops, so until you have all set pieces, take what you can get. The Warmonger set focuses around setting enemies alight with attacks, which helps the fact that it's a set bonus that gives you back health for killing enemies that are on fire. While they're on fire, they can spread it to other orcs, to structures, and to you. So when you are on fire, your 4 set piece bonus will kick in and make you start exploding, dealing massive damage. The Machine set items help you generate more fire and set off more explosions, so pick up the one that's right for you. This one here makes it so defeated enemies explode, and this one here makes it so your glaive attacks explode. With 2 set items, you can summon in sappers instead of grunts with the Call Followers skill. Extremely useful in spreading that fire and doing massive AoE damage. Now let's run through the skills you should pick up. Keep in mind, this skill build is for helping you get to late game and having fun along the way. Let's start with the skills and upgrades you should pick up as soon as they're made available. So as soon as you unlock Drain, upgrade it to Quiver of Souls. With this build, you'll be trying to get up close and deal heavy damage, but you'll also be weaving range into the mix when you have ammo. So get those sweet headshots and start that fire spreading. Quiver of Souls is an easy way to get that ammo back. If you pick up the Machine set sword, you'll notice it has the ability to make Spectral Glaive explode on hits. As soon as you get this item, upgrade Spectral Glaive to Deadly Striker. Deadly Striker makes it so you get even more explosions off with double charge. More explosions equals more fun and fire. More fire equals a more deadly Talion. If you opt not to get the machine sword, give this upgrade a miss. Once you get Elven Rage, upgrade it to Final Blaze. Those not killed by the blaze will be set alight. This build has lots of ways to set enemies alight though, so if you find you want another damage type, this ability is the one you change up. Hitting Poisonous Wraith, for example, will encourage more Balefire. Not very fitting of the build's theme, but each to their own, right? As soon as you get the Call Followers upgrade, upgrade it to Bodyguard and find yourself a Fiery Uruk. Your job is to make everything set alight, so an Uruk with the epic trait Firemaster will increase the damage all your sources of fire will do, drastically increasing the output of damage. Once you get 2 machine set items and finish the Gondor quests, upgrade Call Followers to Iron Guard to summon in a lot of sappers, exploding and dealing huge damage. Switch this and Bodyguard in and out depending on what you're facing and how you're feeling. Once again, depending on what pieces of gear you get, it impacts what skills you should upgrade to reach maximum effect. So let's now continue on with the skill build. Like most builds, you pick up Execution first. It's great to do extra damage to captains and instantly kill grunts, but realistically you'll only be using this on enemies immune to fire once you pick up your other abilities like Firestorm. Perfect Counter is a means to get Critical Strike and Rain of Arrows, so we pick it up now and get good at timing your counters for extra breathing room, but this ability is really just a means to an end for now. So you grab Critical Strike next. With the gear you'll be getting, like the machine chest piece, there's a large chance one of them has a modifier that sets enemies alight when you critically strike. So by picking up this skill, you can more easily apply fire damage to your targets, and as you know, fire damage is the key to this build. Fire and Death. Brace of Daggers is up next, and until you get it upgraded, it's a vessel to do more damage and build might. If you get the Warmonger Dagger, make sure it rolls the chance to apply fire on a quick throw, and then this will immediately become one of your primary non-might based ways to set enemies alight. As of right now, it's used to move on to Elven Light, which you immediately upgrade to Cleansing Blaze. This, along with Firestorm, will be your staple might spending attack. It'll detonate all around you in a large area, catching them alive. Then, if you have 2 pieces of the Warmonger armor, you'll be gaining huge amounts of life back when they die. And if you have specific pieces, you'll be doing a lot more damage to them as well. If you have the machine armor, those enemies could then explode when killed, setting off even more enemies, and continuing the inferno. You move over into the range tree now and pick up Detonate. This skill is pretty staple for exploiting weaknesses, doing large burst damage and fast traveling to a point to start a fight. Extra ways to light kindling is always good, as all of your abilities feed on fire. Freeze Pin is next and is useful if you want to lock down a fleeing Uruk or keep one out of the fight. It's especially useful if you have the 2 set machine bonus and the 4 set Warmonger bonus, as you can lock down the key target, summon in sappers, have them explode on the target, which ignites you as well. Then you start exploding on that set target, all the while he can't fight back. Being able to get headshots off and therefore more criticals to spread fire is always a good thing with this build, and Bird of Prey makes it easier. Nothing more really needs to be said, so just try not to use up all your focus, so you can have some when you're in melee and you need to weave range combat into the mix. The reason we're in this tree is for Mighty Shot, upgraded to Firestorm. Along with Cleansing Blaze, this will be your primary might spending ability. This one is great for when you have been stealthy, built up a bit of might, and want to launch off a range fire starter. It's also useful to have against those not yet set alight for a bit of a health boost. Use common sense in terms of what to spend your might on. I have to say this a lot, but when it comes to the range tree, you would be amiss if you missed picking up Shadow Strike. It is probably the single most useful skill in the game. It functions as a quick travel tool, it functions as a way to start fights, to end fights, to escape, to regroup, to instantly kill grunts, to catch fleeing Uruk and more. In this build's case, it can be extremely useful if you're on fire already and want to get into key targets' faces with explosions. This also lets you use the skill Shadow Mount when you pick it up. Immediately upgrade this to Shadow Strike Call. This lets you isolate key targets, and I can't stress enough how invaluable it is to do so. You can take a captain's army away from him by getting on high ground, then pulling said captain to you. You can even do this in Overlord fights. Realistically, with your build, you can also use this to get targets close to you when your 4 set piece bonus is kicking in. Boom boom! If your item doesn't have the chance that quick throw lights enemies on fire, get serrated edge, so each chance to crit also lights enemies on fire. If you've gotten the gear though, get Rain of Blades. Having a shotgun-like effect is really going to help you in melee, because if all 5 hit a single target, you will do a ton of damage. Also, 5 daggers means 5 chances to set enemies alight. I can't stress how valuable this skill is. So weave it into your combat as much as you can, as it will build your might, set enemies alight, finish off others, and it's free to cast. So by this point, I hope you at least have some of your set. If you have none, perhaps consider going another build. If you have 4 Warmonger, then you'll need to start catching fire. No movie reference intended. Which is risky but rewarding. With Grim Resolve, all of those damage ticks on you from the fire should be igniting your very soul, giving you might. More might equals more damage and more fire. This is a good upgrade to have and works well with the build. I mentioned that criticals will ignite your target. Well, with Reprisal, now your health not being full is a positive thing, as you can start critically striking more often. More criticals means more orcs on fire. More orcs on fire means more damage and more health gained back from killing them. This is a circle of life. Fire is life. As you'll be weaving range into combat to get that juicy damage and those criticals, and you'll be using Shadow Strikes, having a way to gain back arrows easily helps a lot. Enter the perfect counter upgrade, Rain of Arrows. I told you we'll be back here. Get good at timing your counters, because you should be getting ammo back every counter now, meaning you can keep up the melee range power going indefinitely. Well, until your enemies are barbecue at least. So now pick up what you need to get to Call Mount. At this stage of the game, you may be close to finishing all the Khanan quests. If you're not, keep this ability unupgraded. As soon as you are finished, upgrade to Dragon Song to summon in a mighty Drake. What's better than a Drake burning everything? A Tark that gets fiery, explosive bonuses from said burning. The reason you are in the skill tree is for the ability to summon in a Drake. So if you haven't unlocked it yet, pick up Shadow Mount and then Dragon Rider. So guys, now this is the end of the build. It's your job to personalize your build in any way you see fit, depending on your playstyle and the items you've picked up. There are a lot of choices, but you can max out your character with all skills and abilities very late game. So with this build, you'll be starting off in stealth, getting as much might as you can and setting as many Uruk you can alight. You'll be keeping an eye out for flammable things like wooden structures, then starting a fight there with Shadow Strike or Distract. When Uruk get close, start swinging your sword or glaive, weaving in daggers and ranged attacks to set enemies alight. When they are alight, you'll start dealing more damage and you'll start gaining more might, so walking into those flames yourself is a good idea. When you catch a light, then you'll start exploding, clearing out even more Uruk. Pin Uruk around you and shadow pull others to make sure you're getting the full effect. You'll start gaining more might, taking more damage, and start dealing more crits. Any dying Uruk will heal the damage you take, and then you can unleash some firestorms and cleansing blazes if you haven't already to spread the fire even more. When you find a key target, summon in your bodyguard or sappers and target it. Get in close and start dishing out the explosive damage. You aren't alone. As the fight gets heated, heat up some more by summoning in your Drake or dominating one around. If you run out of arrows, you can start perfectly countering and draining enemies to get them back. Keep weaving in that ranged. This build is chaotic and explosive. Expect the screen to be covered in fire. Thanks for watching, guys. I have a ton more Shadow of War content coming very soon, so be sure to subscribe. Leave a comment below on the build you're going to run in Shadow of War as well. I'd love to see it. I'm Potates, and see you soon.